January 26th, 1945. 2:20 p.m. The snow-crusted fields outside Valkenstadt, France were a frozen graveyard of war. Through the haze of smoke and the staccato roar of artillery, something unthinkable was unfolding. A lone American officer crouched atop a burning M10 tank destroyer, methodically cutting down an advancing German company. The men coming at him weren't rookies. They were veterans of the 3rd Alpine Division, transferred from Norway for this very winter offensive. Yet, here they were, frozen in disbelief as a figure no taller than a boy seemed to defy all reason. Behind the German lines, 6 armored vehicles, Panzerviehs and Jagdpanthers that had terrorized Europe from the Ardennes to the Rhine, were immobilized. Their commanders hesitated, unsure how to proceed without infantry support. And that infantry, it was being obliterated man by a single American. The numbers were absurd. 40 exhausted American soldiers facing 250 elite German mountain troops, backed by 6 tanks. Every principle of military doctrine said it was impossible. Yet for a full hour, 2nd Lieutenant Nathaniel "Nate" Lawson would make the impossible real. But Nate's journey to that frozen battlefield began far from Europe, in the cotton fields of Jefferson County, Texas. Born June 20th, 1925, to destitute sharecroppers, he was the 7th of 11 children. Poverty wasn't just a backdrop, it was a relentless taskmaster. When Nate was 12, his father vanished, leaving the boy to help his mother provide for the family. In 1940, illness stole her as well, leaving 16-year-old Nate as the sole provider for his siblings. "I have to hit what I aim at, or my family doesn't eat tonight," Nate told his neighbor, Mr. Harlan Cobb. Even as a boy, he could drop a running rabbit at 50 yards with a simple .22 rifle, while others struggled to hit a barn. Every shot was a matter of survival, every miss a pang of hunger. Those early trials forged a precision and calm under pressure that would later terrify entire German units. When Pearl Harbor fell, Nate saw an escape and a purpose. The Army promised steady meals, wages, and the ability to send money home. Yet, joining wasn't simple. At just 5'5" and weighing barely 110 pounds, he was turned away by the Marines and Navy. Even the paratroopers said he was too small. Only the regular Army infantry finally accepted him on June 30th, 1942, after his sister, Eleanor, forged a document claiming he was 18. Private Samuel "Sammy" Rhodes, who trained with Nate at Camp Travis, Texas, recalled, "We all thought he was a kid, barely out of school. The sergeants called him tiny, laughed at him. But the first time he got on the range, those pale blue eyes froze over. He didn't just hit his target, he owned it. Not once did he miss." From the cotton fields of Texas to the snowbound plains of France, Nathaniel Lawson was about to prove that heroism wasn't measured in size, but in courage, skill, and sheer will. Nathaniel Lawson's transformation from a cotton field boy in Texas to a lethal force on the battlefields of Europe had begun months earlier, during the Sicilian Campaign of July 1943. Assigned to Company C, 17th Infantry Regiment, 5th Infantry Division, Lawson landed at Porto Reale under the blistering sun, part of General Patton's 7th Army invasion. In the rugged hills of Sicily, Lawson discovered a terrifying truth about himself. He was unnervingly effective at killing. Years of hunting rabbits in the Texas plains had taught him stealth, patience, and precision. Near Palermo Vecchio, when his squad came under machine gun fire, Private Lawson circled the enemy position, silenced it with grenades, and turned the captured weapon against the retreating soldiers. Captain Edward Carlisle later recommended him for the Bronze Star, writing, "This soldier demonstrates an instinct for combat that is extraordinary in one so young and inexperienced." Sicily molded him from a capable soldier into a warrior whose name would echo in the minds of friend and foe alike. At the Volturno River in October 1943, Lawson faced a brutal German counterattack. His squad shattered, he grabbed a sniper rifle left by a fallen comrade and held the line, picking off 5 enemy soldiers at ranges exceeding 300 yards. For this action, He received the Distinguished Service Cross. Staff Sergeant Henry Muldoon later explained Lawson's method. Nathaniel didn't fight angry. That's what made him terrifying. He fought like a calculation. See the enemy, eliminate, move to the next. No hesitation, no fear, just deadly efficiency. At Anzio, the beachhead Churchill had called a nightmare. Lawson earned his first Silver Star, destroying a German panzer with a bazooka at point-blank range. By August 1944, during the invasion of southern France, Lawson had survived Sicily, Salerno, Anzio, and Rome. Wounded twice, decorated multiple times, he was now a figure both admired and feared. During the drive through southern France, his lieutenant fell in an ambush near Montclair-sur-Loue, leaving Lawson to take command of the platoon. With only 18 men against a German company of over 100, he held a vital crossroads for 2 hours, personally accounting for 15 enemy casualties. His actions earned him a battlefield commission to second lieutenant on October 14, 1944. By January 1945, as Company C approached the Frost-Hold pocket, Lawson was no longer the boy who had enlisted in 1942. Combat had carved lines of exhaustion and resolve into his face. Of his original companions, few remained alive. He had personally killed over 100 enemy soldiers. The Frost-Hold pocket represented everything cruel about winter warfare. A 900-square-mile German stronghold west of the Rhine, it was the last bastion of the Wehrmacht in northern France. Hitler had ordered it defended at all costs. Reinforced by elite winter troops from Norway, including the feared 4th Mountain Division, the Germans were ready for a fight to the death. Company C's situation was desperate. In the 5 days leading up to January 26th, they had suffered 108 casualties, losing nearly all officers. From a full-strength company of 190 men, only 40 remained combat effective. Lawson himself carried a leg wound from shrapnel, but he had kept it secret. Private Leo Radcliffe later recalled their state. "We were finished, no energy left. Most of us hadn't slept in 3 days. The K rations were barely enough. Frostbite was everywhere. Our weapons froze up, and digging foxholes was impossible. The ground was solid ice. When dawn came and we looked at the open fields in front of us, we knew we were sitting ducks." January 26, 1945, dawned gray and mercilessly cold. Snow lay 3 feet deep in places, churned into icy mud by constant artillery fire. Company C held positions along the edge of Bois de Valmont, peering across nearly a mile of open ground toward the German-held village of Hohenfeld. Private First Class Daniel Ekstrom was the first to spot them. Across the snow-choked field outside Hohenfeld, 6 German Panzerfuß and Jagdpanthers rolled forward in perfect formation. Behind them, nearly 250 infantry in white winter camouflage advanced like phantoms, blending with the frozen terrain. Lieutenant Lawson's first move was to call in artillery support, but he knew instantly that shells alone wouldn't stop this onslaught. The enemy was too numerous, too spread out, moving with terrifying speed. At 600 yards, the 2 M10 tank destroyers supporting Lawson opened fire. The first volleys missed. The crews, numb from cold and exhaustion, struggled to maintain aim. German return fire was immediate and brutal. An 88mm shell slammed into the rear M10's turret, igniting its fuel and ammunition. The tank erupted in flames, the crew scrambling into the forest. The forward M10 tried to reposition but slid sideways into a frozen drainage ditch. Its crew abandoned it, leaving the field bare. By 1420 hours, the German infantry had closed to within 200 yards. Lawson faced a choice that would define his life: retreat or make a stand. He ordered the remaining men to fall back to prepared positions in the woods, but he himself did not retreat. Instead, he sprinted through the artillery fire to the burning tank destroyer. Black smoke belched from its turret. Flames licked the hull, heat radiating enough to sear the skin 30 feet away. Any second, the ammunition could detonate, turning the vehicle into a death trap. Climbing atop the M10, Lawson seized the .50 caliber Browning M2 machine gun, elevated against the sky, silhouetted against the smoke. From this vantage, he had a clear field of fire across the advancing German ranks, but no cover beyond the flames and smoke below. Private Anthony Delaney, crouched in the woods, recalled the sight. "I saw Lieutenant Lawson climb onto that burning tank destroyer. Bullets ricocheted off the treads. Infantry fire pounded the hull. I've never seen courage like that. Not anger, not recklessness, pure, calculated bravery." The M2 fired at 550 rounds per minute, with an effective range of 2,000 meters. In Lawson's hands, it became a tool of surgical destruction. For the next hour, he rained death upon the German advance with cold precision. He maintained telephone contact with artillery batteries, calling in fire missions dangerously close to his own position. The combination of his machine gun fire and the artillery created a lethal corridor the Germans could not breach. Sergeant Elijah Brown watched from the tree line. The German soldiers came within 10 yards. Lawson cut them down in the meadows, the woods, everywhere we could see them. He was everywhere, and yet he was alone. I don't think anyone had ever seen that kind of efficiency under fire. Environmental conditions made his feat even more extraordinary. The ground was frozen solid, preventing proper entrenchment. Snow and ice reflected light unpredictably, and sub-zero winds froze fingers and faces alike. Frostbite plagued the men, and weapons often jammed. Yet Lawson used the elevation of the burning M10 to his advantage. The smoke shielded him from precise German fire, while the height allowed long-range shots at approaching infantry. German tanks, expecting easy destruction of the weakened American line, found themselves immobilized. Without infantry support to protect them from close assault, doctrine dictated that advancing was too dangerous. The tanks faltered. Technical Sergeant Morgan Walters, observing through binoculars from the battalion command post, later testified, "Lawson wasn't just spraying bullets. Every burst was aimed. He was like a marksman at a shooting gallery, picking off squads attempting to flank our position. I watched him cut down an entire team before they could even fire a second shot." By approximately 1,500 hours, after nearly 40 minutes of relentless fire, Lieutenant Nathaniel Lawson faced a new crisis. His ammunition was running dangerously low. The barrel of the M2 Browning glowed red from heat. Beneath him, the burning M10 tank destroyer was settling unevenly into the frozen ground as its tracks and road wheels began to melt. German infantry had closed to within 10 yards of his position. Private Charles Owensby, crouched in the tree line, remembered the moment. We could hear his 50 slowing down. He was out of rounds. You could feel the tension in the air. Some of the Germans realized it too. They started charging straight at him. Lawson reacted instantly. He grabbed his carbine and continued picking off soldiers with deadly precision. By 1510 hours, with German troops pressing in and his ammunition nearly depleted, he made a decision that would cement his legend. He called in artillery strikes directly on his own position. Forward observer Lieutenant Wilhelm Eberhardt hesitated, knowing it would almost certainly kill Lawson. But Lawson's voice over the field phone was firm. "I'm giving you a direct order. Fire on my position, now!" The first shells landed within 50 yards of the burning tank destroyer. Explosions sent frozen earth and shards of steel flying. German soldiers caught in the open were obliterated. Lawson himself was struck by shrapnel, his second wound of the day. Yet he continued firing the few rounds remaining in his carbine. The combination of Lawson's precise fire and the artillery barrage shattered the German assault. Surviving infantry, perhaps 100 men, fell back toward Hohenfeld. The armored vehicles, now without infantry support and facing increasingly accurate artillery, reversed course and withdrew. By 1520 hours, after an hour of ceaseless combat, Lawson descended from the burning M10. His uniform was scorched from the inferno. Blood ran down his leg from shrapnel wounds. 10 minutes later, the M10 exploded, a final testament to the fury of the battle. The battlefield was a frozen tableau of destruction. German bodies lay scattered across the snow, estimates placing around 50 dead, with many more wounded. The survivors retreated in disarray, their officers unable to organize another assault. Private Anthony Delaney recalled Lawson's demeanor. He came back to the woods, calm, scary calm. He asked if anyone had been hit by the artillery, checked on everyone, then just sat down and lit a cigarette like nothing had happened. His hands didn't even shake. Perhaps most remarkable is the near-total absence of German accounts of the battle. Despite research in the Bundesarchiv and veteran records, no German diaries or testimonies survive describing Lawson's stand. Several reasons explain this silence. The unit suffered heavy casualties, division-level records were destroyed in the chaotic final months of the war, and the rapid retreat left little time for detailed documentation. Operational records identify the German formations involved. The 4th Mountain Division formed the primary infantry force, supported by elements of the 710th Volksgrenadier Division and the 290th Assault Gun Battalion. These were elite soldiers, many veterans of Norway, Finland, and the Eastern Front, trained for winter combat. Their failure against a single, seemingly fearless soldier defied all tactical expectation. The 4th Mountain Division's war diary tersely notes only: attack on American positions near Hohenfeld repulsed with heavy casualties, enemy resistance heavier than expected. Yet behind this simple entry lies a moment of pure military astonishment. A young lieutenant, outnumbered 6-1, turning the tide through courage, skill, and sheer will. Post-war German military analysis included the Battle in Verteidigung gegen Überlegenheit, Defense Against Superior Forces, published in 1965, studying how a single determined defender could halt an overwhelming attack. The analysis of the Frosthold engagement revealed several decisive factors behind the German defeat. Overconfidence in their numerical superiority, rigid tactics once their initial assault stalled, and the breakdown of combined arms when tanks and infantry failed to coordinate. After that day, the Germans never attempted another assault on Lawson's position. That night, under the cover of darkness, elite mountain troops, veterans imported from Norway, soldiers who had never retreated in 4 years of war, pulled back without orders. The psychological shock of being stopped by a single American soldier outweighed the physical casualties. Nathaniel Lawson's stand had consequences far beyond the immediate tactical victory. By holding the Bois de Valmont, Lawson ensured that the 5th Infantry Division retained control of the forest that dominated the approaches to Hohenfeld. The German failure to break through meant that the Frosthold pocket's days were numbered. The following day, January 27th, Hohenfeld itself fell to the advancing 32nd Infantry Regiment. Within weeks, the entire German bridgehead west of the Rhine was eliminated, freeing tens of thousands of Allied troops for the final push into Germany. The engagement proved a stark lesson. Even elite German formations could not overcome determined American resistance, regardless of numbers. General Jean de Lattre de Tassigny, commander of the French First Army, recognized the significance. Lawson's extraordinary courage broke the backbone of German resistance in Alsace. The tactical lessons, especially the combination of artillery and automatic weapons in a defensive posture, shaped American doctrine for the remainder of the European campaign. In recognition, the 5th Infantry Division earned the right to wear the French Croix de Guerre, a permanent tribute to their role in liberating France. In 2002, a memorial was erected at Bois de Valmont, ensuring that local citizens and visitors would remember the young American who had helped secure their freedom. The Medal of Honor citation, formally presented by Lieutenant General Alexander Patch on June 2, 1945, struggled, as most military documents do, to convey the scale of Lawson's heroism. Alone, exposed to German fire from 3 sides, he had killed scores of enemy soldiers and halted an assault that could have annihilated Company C. For a full hour, the Germans tried every weapon at their disposal to destroy him. Yet Lawson held his ground. The award ceremony, held near Salzburg, Austria, brought together surviving members of the 5th Infantry Division, a reunion of comrades who had witnessed the impossible that day. Despite the honor, Lawson never viewed himself as heroic. When asked why he had climbed onto the burning M10, he responded simply, "They were killing my friends. I wasn't being heroic. I figured if one man could do the job, Why risk the lives of others? Yet heroism came at a personal cost. Lawson's post-war life was plagued by what was then called battle fatigue, today recognized as PTSD. He endured chronic insomnia, recurring nightmares, and hypervigilance. Nights were spent in the garage with the lights on. He always slept with a loaded pistol nearby. "I remember the experience as if I do a nightmare," he wrote. "A demon seemed to have entered my body." Lawson's willingness to speak openly about his struggles paved the way for improved care for combat veterans. In 1975, 2 years after his death in a plane crash at age 46, the Nathaniel Lawson Memorial VA Hospital in San Antonio opened its doors. His personal life bore the scars of war. His first marriage to Clara Hendricks lasted only 16 months, strained by the relentless grip of PTSD. Hendricks later recalled, "By day, he was charming, funny, generous. By night, he became someone else. He patrolled the house with a gun. He slept in the garage with the lights on. Darkness brought the war back. I was lucky," Nathaniel Lawson once admitted. "I could afford doctors, therapy, medication. But what about the veteran who can't? What about the thousands coming back from wars we never hear about?" Yet on January 26, 1945, luck had little to do with it. Lawson's effectiveness at Frosthold was amplified by the weapons he wielded and the mind that controlled them. The M2 Browning .50 caliber machine gun, designed nearly 3 decades earlier by John Browning, was among the most lethal tools of World War II. Each .50 BMG round could penetrate 1 inch of steel at 100 yards, and with over 13,000 foot-pounds of muzzle energy, it could tear a human body apart. The M10 tank destroyer beneath him carried 51 rounds of 3-inch shells, 1,000 rounds of .50 caliber ammunition, and 300 gallons of gasoline. When an 80-08mm shell struck earlier in the battle, it ignited the fuel, sending flames soaring. That the vehicle burned for over an hour without exploding was almost miraculous. Lawson was literally standing on a bomb with a live fuse. Equally decisive was the artillery fire he directed. The American 105mm howitzers he called in could hurl 33-pound high-explosive shells over 11 kilometers. Each shell produced a lethal radius of 200 meters. By adjusting their fire to within 50 yards of his own position, dangerously close by any standard, Lawson multiplied his combat power exponentially. Military analysts have attempted to quantify the odds of his survival. Facing 250 infantrymen armed with rifles and machine guns, backed by 6 tanks, approximately 10,000 rounds were fired at his location in that single hour. Even accounting for poor accuracy due to distance, snow, and smoke, models suggest he should have been struck 15 to 20 times. Yet he remained alive, moving, and deadly. The physical demands were equally staggering. The M2 weighed 84 pounds, had brutal recoil, and Lawson had to maintain his balance atop a flaming, unstable M10 while under fire from 3 directions simultaneously. Smoke choked him. The heat blistered his uniform. Each shot required strength, precision, and unrelenting focus. Psychologists and historians have debated what made Lawson capable of such superhuman feats. Was it his impoverished upbringing which taught him survival at any cost? The hunting and marksmanship that made killing instinctive? Or merely being in the right place at the right time, tempered by an unshakable protective instinct for his men? Dr. Marcus Greaves, a leading expert on combat psychology, called it a perfect storm. Technical skill, early trauma forging emotional detachment, and an instinctive drive to protect comrades overriding every instinct of self-preservation. Lawson himself articulated it simply: "They were killing my men. I had to stop them. Nothing else mattered." It wasn't about strategy or medals. It was about people he commanded, people he refused to let die. In a 1968 interview, reflecting on the battle 3 years before his death, Lawson said, "People call that day heroic. Maybe it was, but I became something inhuman. I felt nothing, no fear, no anger, just a cold determination to destroy anyone who threatened my men." His record remains unmatched. Lawson received every U.S. Army combat decoration for valor, some of them twice, yet he never sought recognition. To him, heroism was duty fulfilled, not applause earned. What endures is more than medals or citations. It is the story of a man forged by hardship, honed by war, and defined not by the killing he accomplished, but by the lives he saved. Nathaniel Lawson reminds us that extraordinary courage is born from necessity, skill, and the human heart, and that the legacy of one soldier can ripple far beyond the battlefield, shaping history, doctrine, and the lives of those who follow in his footsteps.